Hello and welcome to our 18-day campaign to end violence against women. This is your host, Atty. Ventosa, your Davao lawyer and a member of the Board of Directors of 𝐂𝐚𝐦𝐠𝐷 Multipurpose Cooperative and the chairperson of the Gender and Development Committee. And together with NATCO, Gender and Development Committee, we are now at the home stretch of our 18 days. No? So salamat sa sabay, no? And continuing to watch our 18 days. You could watch us live and on the replay, NATCO Gender and Development Facebook page and YouTube channel, and Davao Lawyer Facebook page and Davao Lawyer YouTube channel. So for today, we're going to tackle on the surface many laws, other laws protecting women and children, and some may be new, some may be already familiar to you, but you can post your comments, and also in our inbox you could also send your questions and other suggestions and other topics that you want us to tackle soon. Okay, so we will start with our first slides. So the first laws that we have protecting women and children is the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So this Universal Declaration of Human Rights is an international document adopted in 1948 by the UN General Assembly that enshrines the rights and freedoms of all human beings. It was the first attempt to create a global standard of human rights to define what human rights are and what they encompass. As such, the UDHR is highly relevant to each and every global citizen, regardless of age, sex, and gender. The CEDAW, what is the CEDAW? Last 1981, it was passed. It is the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, adopted in 1979, approved in 1981 by the UN General Assembly. This is the International Bill of Rights for Women. It defines what constitutes discrimination against women and sets up an agenda for national action to end such discrimination. Next, we have our 1987 Constitution. The 1987 Constitution, Article 2, Section 14, states that in the Declaration of Principles and State Policies, the state recognizes the role of women in nation building and shall ensure the fundamental equality before this of the law of women and men. And also under the 1987 Constitution, under Article 13, Section 14, which is the social justice and human rights on women, it gives protection to working women by providing safe and helpful working conditions, taking into account their maternal functions and such facilities and opportunities that will enhance their welfare and enable them to realize their full potential in the service of the nation. Last 1992 Republic Act 7192, or the Act promoting the integration of women as full and equal partners of men in development and nation building and for other purposes, was passed. The Women and Development and Nation Building Act is the act promoting the integration of women as full and equal partners of men in development and nation building and for other purpose. No? So it is a law that in the Philippines that promotes the integration of women as full and equal partners of men in development and nation building. The law requires that a substantial portion of official development assistance funds be allocated for women-specific activities. The law also recognizes that government organizations review and revise their policies and procedures to remove gender bias. This was passed sometime February 1992. We also have Republic Act 9710, passed last 2009, which is the act providing for the Magna Carta of Women. This is the Bill of Rights of Filipino Women, approved last 14 August 2009. The Magna Carta of Women is a comprehensive women's human rights law that seeks to eliminate discrimination through the recognition, protection, fulfillment, and promotion of the rights of Filipino women, especially those belonging to the marginalized sectors of society. It is the local translation of the provisions of the CEDAW particularly in defining gender discrimination, state obligations, substantive equality, and temporary special measures. It also recognizes human rights guaranteed by the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, or the ICESCR. It was passed sometime last August 14, 2009. Right, so we will continue. So we have now some specific laws. We have the Anti-Child Abuse Law, which is Republic Act 7610. Who is a child? A child is referred to a person below 18 years old or a person even though over 18 years old, but he or she is unable to fully take care of himself or herself because of a physical or mental disability or condition. Under the law, it provides for special protection to children from all forms of abuse, neglect, cruelty, exploitation, discrimination, and other conditions prejudicial to their development. The three categories of child abuse are penalized. First is child prostitution and other sexual abuse. Second is child trafficking. And the third is child pornography. The child engaged in prostitution are considered as victims. Those punished are the ones who abuse the child in prostitution or derive profit from it. On the other hand, child trafficking is the act of buying and selling of a child for money or for any other consideration. Child pornography, obscene publications, and indecent shows punishes any person who shall use, persuade, or force a child to perform indecent shows or exhibitions in live or video, or pose in model in pornographic materials. What is the Anti-Child Labor Law? That's Republic Act 9231. It defines the worst forms of labors like slavery, prostitution, and pornography, use of children for illegal activities, work that is hazardous and harmful to the health, safety, and morals of children. It prescribes the employable age. Under the law, children below 15 years of age shall not be employed except in the following cases: when the child works directly under parents or legal guardian and only members of the family are employed. Second, when the child is employed in public entertainment or information through cinema, theater, radio, television, or other forms of media is essential. So it regulates the working hours for children. Children below 15 years of age may work for not more than 20 hours a week or at most 4 hours a day. The law limits children 15 to 17 years old to work not more than 8 hours a day or 40 hours a week. Night work from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. is prohibited. It also regulates disposition of children's wages. The child's earnings shall be set aside primarily for his or her support, education, or skill acquisition. Not more than 20% of the child's income may be allotted for the collected needs of the family. So we will distinguish child labor from child work. Child work, work is appropriate to a child's age and mental capabilities. Child labor, on the other hand, the work burdens the child, too heavy for child's age and capabilities. Child work, limited hours of work, does not hinder the child from going to school, playing, or resting. Child labor are very long hours of work. Child has limited or no time for school, play, or rest. Child work is child's physical, emotional, and mental well-being are nourished even in the work environment. On the other hand, child labor, the child is subjected to psychological, verbal, or physical or sexual abuse. And child work is legal and child labor is illegal. So what are the services or assistance and the penalties? So the services or assistance for the children are access to education and training for working children, access to immediate legal, medical, and psychosocial services, preservation of the working child's income, and a trust fund. So children below 15 years of age shall not be employed, so there are some exceptions. The penalty is 6 months to 6 years, imprisonment, and a fine of not less than 50,000 but not more than 300,000. On the other hand, if you violate the hours of work of working child, the penalty is 6 months to 6 years imprisonment, and again, a fine of not less than 50,000 but not more than 300,000. And also, if you employ a child as a model, any amusement directly or indirectly promoting alcoholic beverages or sexual acts or gambling, same penalty of 6 months to 6 years imprisonment and a fine of not less than 50,000 but not more than 300,000 pesos. Also, if there will be forms of slavery under the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act, we have already discussed that. The penalties will be under the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act of 2003. The penalty imposed in the maximum period as provided for Republic Act 9208 as amended. Now, if there is a use of illegal drugs, the penalty will be imposed in the maximum period in accordance with the Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002 or Republic Act 9165. So the parents, biological or by legal fiction, and legal guardians found to be violating sections 12, 12A, 12B, and 12C of this Act shall pay a fine of not less than 10,000 pesos, but not more than 100,000 pesos, or be required to render community service for not less than 30 days, but not more than 1 year, or both such fine and community service. If a corporation commits any of the cited violations, the board of directors, trustees, and officers, including the president, secretary, and treasurer of the corporation who participated in or knowingly allowed the violation, shall be penalized accordingly. Next, we will discuss the Anti-Rape Law or Republic Act number 8353. So there are two kinds of rape, rape by sexual intercourse and rape by sexual assault. So rape by sexual intercourse as defined under Republic Act 8353 is through force or intimidation. The victim is deprived of reason or unconscious, fraudulent machination or grave abuse of authority, or the victim is under 12 years old or demented. However, in the Republic Act 11648, it increased the age of statutory rape from 12 years old to 16 years old. That's the latest amendment. Okay. Rape by sexual assault, on the other hand, is inserting penis into another person's mouth or anus, or inserting any instrument or object into another person's genital or anus. Okay. Remember, rape is now considered a public crime. This means that any person who has knowledge of the crime may file a complaint. Consequently, even if the victim withdraws her complaint, the government, the police, the prosecution, the fiscal may proceed with the case. Under Republic Act 8353, the Anti-Rape Law of 1997, it reclassified rape as crime against persons. We said that it has two ways of committing rape. The man has carnal knowledge of woman under the following circumstances: through force, threat, or intimidation, wherein the offended party is deprived of reason or unconscious; through fraudulent machination, grave abuse of authority; or when the offended party is under 12 years or demented, as amended by Republic Act 11630. Now, by any person who, under any circumstance, in paragraph 1, shall commit a sexual assault by inserting his penis into another person's mouth or anal orifice, or inserting any instrument or object, including a finger, into the genital or anal orifice of any person. Okay, this is what the Supreme Court had said about rape. The slightest penetration of the outer labia is sufficient. The absence of sperm in the vagina does not mean that no rape occurred. So what is consent as contemplated under the law? There is no issue of consent for child victims under the age of 12 years old. Children under 12 cannot give their consent, or 16 years old, as previously mentioned a while ago. When marriage is available, there can be no valid marriage between an offender and have the consent of their parents. So any marriage entered into before a party reaches the age of 18 is void from the very beginning, and a parent cannot give a consent to a child who may want to marry before she turns he or she turns 18 years old. So, likewise, in Republic Act 11596, we already have the Anti-Child Marriage Act. So, no marriage of any child below 18 is valid in all circumstances. So we now go to Republic Act 9262, or the Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children. So the long title of this act is, it is an act defining violence against women and their children, providing for protective measures for victims, prescribing penalties therefore, and for other purposes. The rationale for this is to uphold the dignity of women and their children and to guarantee full respect for human rights. The state recognizes the need to protect the family and its members, particularly women and children, from violence and threats to their personal safety and security. So violence against women and their children refers to any act or series of acts committed by any person against a woman who is his wife, former wife, or against a woman with whom the person has or had a sexual or dating relationship, and against a woman with whom he has a common child. So pwedeng wife or ex-wife, or kahit yung commercial sex worker, or yung one-night stand, or yung woman na meron siyang common child. So it is against her child, whether legitimate or legitimate, within or without the family abode, which result in or is likely to result in physical, sexual, psychological harm or suffering or economic abuse. It includes threats of such acts, battery, assault, coercion, harassment, or arbitrary deprivation of liberty. It also includes, but it's not limited to, the following acts, which is physical violence, sexual violence, psychological violence, and economic abuse. So the acts of violence against women and children under Section 5 is causing physical harm to the woman or child, threatening to cause physical harm to the woman or child. So threats pa lang, no? Attempting to cause physical harm to the woman or child, placing the woman or child in fear or imminent physical harm. Letter E, attempting to compel or compelling the woman or her child to engage in conduct that the woman or her child has the right to desist from, or to desist from conduct which they have a right to engage in, or restricting or attempting to restrict the woman and child's freedom of movement or conduct by force or threat of force, physical or other harm or threat of such or intimidation, including but not limited to the following acts, with the purpose of controlling or restricting the woman and child's movement or conduct. So number 1, threatening to deprive or depriving the woman or her child or custody access to his or her family. Depriving or threatening to deprive the woman or her child of financial support, or deliberately providing insufficient financial support. Depriving or threatening to deprive a woman of her child of a legal right, preventing the woman in engaging in a legitimate profession, occupation, business, or activity, or controlling the victim's own money or properties, or solely controlling the conjugal or common money or properties. F is inflicting or threatening to inflict physical harm on oneself for the purpose of controlling her actions or decisions. So kahit sinasaktan natin yung sarili, merong iba nag-threat na magpakamatay, so that is also included in the prohibited acts. Causing or attempting to cause the woman or her child to engage in sexual activity which does not constitute rape. So kahit hindi siya rape, no, under siya doon, is this under Section 5G, it's a violation of Republic Act 9262. Engaging in purposeful, knowing, or reckless conduct, personally or through another, that alarms or causes substantial emotion or psychological distress to a woman or child, including but not limited to stalking or following the woman or child in public or private places, peering in the window or lingering outside the residence of the woman or her child. 3, entering or remaining in the dwelling of the woman or child against their will. 4, destroying the property and personal belongings of the woman or her child, or inflicting harm to their animals or pets, any form of harassment or violence. Okay, so kasali na dito yung stalking, no? So sunod-sunod sa babae or sa bata, no? Sa public or private places, no? Magtingin sa window, lingering outside the residence of the woman or child. pumapasok sa bahay na walang paalam or ayaw nilang papasukin, no? Sinisira yung mga property or sinasaktan yung mga pets or animals ng babae or yung bata, and any other form of harassment or violence. Again, letter I is causing mental or emotional anguish, public ridicule, or humiliation to the woman or child, including but not limited to repeated verbal and emotional abuse and denial of financial support or denial of access to the woman's child or children. So kapag meron na kayong agreement or usapan na, let's say, 15 days dito ang mga bata sa woman, then 15 days doon sa man, at hindi naman ito nasusunod, ito ay maaring violation ng Section 5I ng RA 9262. So, ano itong mga penalties naman, no, ang nakikita natin dito? Physical harm under Section 5A, kapag attempted, frustrated, or consummated parricide, murder, or homicide. So, ang kanyang penalty is punished in accordance with the revised penal code. Kapag serious physical injuries, prison mayor. Less serious physical injuries, prison correctional, or slight physical injuries, arresto mayor. Under Section 5B, imprisonment of 2 degrees lower than the consummated crime. Under Section 5C and 5D, arresto mayor. Under Section 5E, prison correctional. Under Section 5F, arresto mayor. Under Section 5G, prison mayor. And acts under Section 5H and I, prison mayor. Ang mga fine natin dito is from 100,000 pesos to 300,000 pesos plus mandatory psychological counseling or psychiatric treatment. Ang regional trial court o yung family court ay meron original and exclusive jurisdiction. So meaning dyan talaga dapat natin i-file. Kapag wala pong family court, yung lugar na kung saan ang offense was committed, it shall be filed in the regional trial court where the crime or any of its elements were or was committed at the option of the complainant. So bahala na yung complainant kung saan yung i-file, kung saan yung lugar na merong regional trial court, kung saan yung krimen or saan yung mga elemento nito ay naganap or ginawa ng perpetrator. So, ano itong mga protection orders? A protection order is an order issued for the purpose of preventing further acts of violence against a woman or her child. It can also grant other necessary relief. So, ano ibang klase nitong ating protection orders? Meron tayong BPO, yung ating Barangay Protection Order. Meron tayong TPO, Temporary Protection Order, and PPO, Permanent Protection Order. Siguro, magandang advice lang, no? Katulad ng ina-advise ng iba ding mga lawyers, no? When you go to the barangay, pwede ka naman humingi na rin ng support or provisional support, no? Para at least magbibigay na agad ng pera or financial support yung ama or yung partner ninyo sa inyo at sa mga bata. At kapag nag-continue na kayo sa court, pwede nang makontinue na rin yung napag-usapang support doon sa barangay. So who may file petition for protection order? A, the offended party. B, the parents or guardians of the offended party. C, ascendants, descendants, or collateral relatives within the fourth civil degree of consanguinity or affinity. Yung mandang officers or social workers of the DSWD or social workers of the local government units, yung sa mga ating munisipyo, sa ating mga syudad, sa ating mga probinsya. Police officers, no? Preferably those in charge of women and children's desk. 100% na po yung ating women's children's protection unit and or women's and children's protection desks all over the country sa Philippine National Police. Yun pong punong barangay or barangay kagawad, pwede rin po pala mag-file. Any lawyer, counselor, therapist, or healthcare provider of the petitioner. At least 2 concerned responsible citizens of the city or municipality where the violence against women and their children occurred and who has personal knowledge of the offense committed. So ano ba ang forma ng ating protection order? First, it must be in writing, and second, it must be signed and verified under oath by the applicant. So kapag sabi natin signed and verified under oath, ay naka-notarize po sa abogado, pwede pong private at pwede pong public attorney or prosecutor. So it may be filed as an independent action or as an incidental relief in any civil or criminal case. So pwede siyang ma-file na siya lang mismo or pwede rin siyang add-on, no, sa mga civil or criminal case na ipina-file po ng complainant. A standard protection order application form written in English with translation to the major local languages shall be made available to facilitate applications for protection orders. So meron na tayong standard form dyan na madali na lang sundan ng mga nag-a-apply po nito. So if the applicant is not the victim, the application must be accompanied by an affidavit of the applicant attesting to A, the circumstances of the abuse suffered by the victim, and B, the circumstances of consent given by the victim for the filing of the application. Also, kailangan, of course, kung yung nag-apply ay hindi yung biktima, kailangan po na babangkitin doon sa applicant kung ano yung mga klaseng abuse na suffered by the victim and yung consent given by the victim. So, siguro ngayon, pwede naman hindi lang in writing, meron tayong messenger or email or kung ano pa, yun ay i-attach natin doon sa application form. When the disclosure of the address of the victim will pose danger to her life, it shall be so stated in the application. In such a case, the applicant shall attest that the victim is residing in the municipality or city over which court has territorial jurisdiction and shall provide a mailing address for purpose of service processing. So kapag pagbanggit po ng address ng biktima ay will pose danger to her life, no? Dapat ilagay doon sa application and magbigay na lang po siguro ng mailing address for purpose of service processing. So pwede po siguro sa abogado, sa mga kapitbahay, or sa mga kakilalang iba na sa ibang lugar po. An application for protection order filed with the court shall be considered an application for both a temporary protection order and a permanent protection order. Kapag nasa barangay na rin po, barangay officials and court personnel shall assist applicants in the preparation of the application. Ang law enforcement agents na din ay shall also extend assistance in the application for protection orders in cases brought to their attention. So kung halimbawa doon sa NBI, sa Philippine National Police, or sa barangay, kailangan po nila ang magbigay din po ng assistance para ma-actionan agad po yung mga protection orders. Ano po ang iba pang mga reliefs, no? That may be included in the protection orders. Prohibition of respondent from threatening or to commit or committing personally or through another, no? So pwede siyang pagbawalan po, no, to threat or to commit any mga personally na sa kanya or sa ibang tao niya papadaan. Prohibition of respondent from harassing, annoying, telephoning, contacting or otherwise communicating with petitioner directly or indirectly. So bawal na po kontakin yung applicant, no? Through phone, baka messenger, or whatever, directly or indirectly. Removal and exclusion of the respondent from the residence of the petitioner regardless of ownership of the residence temporarily or permanently. So pwede kayong matanggal sa pamamahay niyo po, no? Mga kalalakihan dyan. So ingat po, no? Kapag ito po ay mangyari sa inyo, maaari pong hindi lang temporary or pwedeng permanent na rin kayong hindi na makakauwi sa inyong bahay, kahit sino man ang may-ari nito. And number 4, directing the respondent to stay away from the petitioner at any designated family or household member at a distance specified by the court and to stay away from the residence, school, place of employment, or any specified place. So hindi na siya makalapit doon, no? Sa school, sa bahay, at iba pang lugar. Directing lawful possession and use by petitioner of an automobile and other essential personal effects. So pwedeng paggamitin yung aplikante, no, yung babae at mga bata ng sasakyan at iba pa siguro ito, essential personal effects. So ngayon, important na po yung ating laptop, yung ating cellphones, no, and other siguro yung mga kagamitan nila para sa school and siguro for their medicines. No. Temporary or permanent custody of a child, children to the petitioner, pwede rin ibigay, temporary or permanent na po. Support to the woman or her child if entitled to support, o bigay po ng support. Prohibition of respondent from any use or protection of firearm or deadly weapon. Court can order him to surrender the same for appropriate disposition by the court. Also, meron sigurong permit to LTAP, no, license to operate and possess, no, yung firearms, itong isang lalaki, pwedeng ipasurrender ng court sa kanya yan para hindi niya na magamit. Restitution for actual damages caused by the violence inflicted. So magbabayad po yung lalaki, no, sa babae nagko-complain. So ano yung mga actual damages niya? May nawalan siya ng siguro sweldo, na nagkasakit, naggasto sa abogado at kung ano-ano pa, ayan ay dapat i-reimburse po ng ating suspect or yung ating nasasaktan. Directing the DSWD or appropriate agency to provide shelter, etc., other relief necessary. So, enforceability ng ating protection orders, all temporary protection orders and permanent protection orders issued are enforceable anywhere in the Philippines. So, pwede ho siya anywhere in the Philippines. Violation ng TPO and PPO are punishable by a fine of 5,000 to 50,000 pesos and or imprisonment of 6 months. So, hindi lang po fine, pwedeng sabay rin po ang imprisonment. No? Then, effectivity of temporary protection orders are 30 days, extendable for a period of 30 days, each particular time until final judgment is issued. Ano mga duties po ng ating mga barangay officials and law enforcers? To respond immediately to a call for help or request for assistance or protection of the victim by entering the necessary whether or not a protection order has been issued, ensure the safety of the victims. Okay, yung safety ho talaga. Confiscate any deadly weapon in the possession of the perpetrator or within plain view. Transport or escort the victim to a safe place of their choice or to a clinic or hospital. Assist the victim in removing personal belongings from the house. Assist the barangay officials and other government officers and employees who respond to a call for help. All right, what are the other duties of barangay officials and law enforcement agencies or agents? To ensure the enforcement of the protection orders issued by the punong barangay or the courts. Arrest the suspected perpetrator without a warrant when any of the acts of violence defined by this act is occurring or when he or she has personal knowledge that any act or abuse has been committed and there is imminent danger to the life or limb of the victim as defined in this act. And immediately report the call for assessment or assistance of the DSWD, Social Welfare Department of LGUs or accredited non-government organizations, yung NGOs po. Ang failure to report po, ang meron hong penalty, no? Ang any barangay official or law enforcer who fails to report the incident shall be liable for a fine not exceeding 10,000 pesos or whenever applicable, maaari rin silang harap ng criminal, civil, or administrative cases. Of course, ang confidentiality, kailangan po ng confidential po ang records ng cases of violence against women and children, including those in the barangay. No? Dapat confidential po. All public officers and employees and public or private clinics or hospitals shall respect the right of privacy of the victim. So lahat yung mga records doon sa mga clinics or hospital dapat protected po ang mga identity ng biktima. Any violation of confidentiality clause shall be subject to the contempt powers of the court. So pwede pong hahatulan. And last but not least, we have the prescription of action. We have acts falling under sections 5A to F, 20 years, no? And acts falling under sections 5G to 5I shall prescribe in 10 years. Anong ibig sabihin po nito? Ang ibig po sabihin nito ay abot po ng 20 years, no? Yung mga kasong under 5A to 5F at yung sa 5G to 5I, 10 years pa pwede nyong ifa-file, no? For example, let's see. Let's see this enumeration. So sa 5A to 5D, no, 20 years, yung causing physical harm to the woman or her child, threatening to cause the woman or her child physical harm, attempting to cause the woman or child physical harm, placing the woman or child in fear or imminent physical harm. Ito naman yung sa 5E, no? 20 years ang prescriptive period, attempting to compel or compelling the woman or her child to engage in conduct or which the woman or her child has the right to desist from. So may right silang na hindi gawin or hindi naman ipagawa na meron silang right na engage in, no? For example, to eat, no? To get medicine, pero pinipigilan or attempting to restrict or restricting the woman's or child's freedom of movement, o hindi pinapalabas ng bahay, hindi pinapapunta sa school, by force or by threat or force, physical other harm or threat or physical harm or intimidation directed against the woman or his child. This shall include but not limited to the following acts committed for the purpose. So ito yung mga different acts, no, na under sa 5E na hanggang 20 years pwede tayong mag-file ng kaso yung ating kababaihan. So itong 5E124, threatening to deprive or actually depriving the woman of her child of custody or access to his or her family. Depriving or threatening to deprive the woman or her children of financial support, legally due her or family, or deliberately providing the woman's children insufficient financial support. Depriving or threatening to deprive the woman or her child of a legal right. Preventing the woman engaging in a legitimate profession, occupation, business, or activity, or controlling the victim's own money or properties, or solely controlling the conjugal or common money or property. So dito more on sa income, no, yung sa mga income ng babae, yung support sa mga bata. Siya po ay nagpe-prevent or hinahanapan niya ng paraan na i-control or hindi nabibigyan ng pera yung mga bata po or yung babae po. Okay, next. Ito, 20 years pa rin, no? Yung inflicting or threatening to inflict physical harm on oneself for the purpose of controlling her actions or decisions. Yung, magpapakamatay ako, saktan ko sarili ko. Ganyan. So, that also is, can be filed within 20 years, no, sa pangyayari na yon. So, ito naman yung pang 10 years lang po, yung 𝐠𝐻&I, causing or attempting to cause the woman or her child to engage in sexual activity which does not constitute rape by force or threat of force, physical harm or through intimidation directed against the woman or her child or his or her immediate family. Engaging in purposeful, knowing, or reckless conduct, personally or through another, that alarms or causes substantial emotion or psychological distress to the woman or to her child. So kasali na dito, no, yung magiging reckless or parang ibang conduct na nakakatakot o nakakabahala sa psychological or emotional distress sa babae or sa bata. So let's check this. Okay, so up to 10 years po, pwede nilang ipa-file yan, ha. Okay, so let's check. Ito po. So number 1 to 5, no, yung 5H, number 1 to 5, stalking, yun sinabi natin, following the woman or child in public or private places, peering in the window or lingering outside the residence of the woman or her child, entering or remaining in the dwelling on the property of the woman or child against her will, no? So, stalking, titingin-tingin dyan sa bintana or sa labas ng gate or pumasok na hindi naman pinayagan, no? Or hindi kinonsent ng mga babae or ng bata. Sinisira yung property or personal belongings or inflicting harms to animals or pets ng babae or ng bata, and engaging in any form of harassment or violence. Okay. And last but not least, we have this section 5I, no? 10 years din yung prescriptive period niya. Causing mental or emotional anguish, public ridicule or humiliation to the woman or her child, including but not limited to repeated verbal and emotional abuse, and denial of financial support or custody of minor children, or denial of access to the woman's child or children. So, yun, nakakabigay ng psychological or emotional violence, no, panghihiya, no, sa babae or sa bata, including but not limited to yung verbal, emotional abuse, yung denial of financial support or custody of minor children, or denial of access, yung hindi pinapabisita, hindi pinapapunta sa bahay, or tinatago na yung bata at hindi na nakikita nung ating mother and yung iba pang mga nag-guardian po sa bata. So hopefully you have enjoyed and have been entertained, no, and educated by our episode, especially in this last portion of violence against women and children. That is a fitting conclusion to our discussion of the other laws protecting women and children. And see you soon, and continue to be aware of the programs and activities and webinars of NATCO, Gender and Development Committee, and Silangan Multipurpose Cooperative. This is Attorney Blue Ventosa, your Davao lawyer. Stay safe and bye-bye.